at Noon is brought to you by Saints Row 4, available August 20th.
Previously on Up at Noon.
So he said he's from England, and I go,
Oi, I'm Kiz McDonald, pop pop, hey Alex Simmons, fancy a biscuit, oh I sure like this porridge.
I'm not even English.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Up at Noon. Just like those big, bad Scottish to pick on us peaceful, quiet Americans. No taxation without representation, I always say. Holy crap! Did you pick a good episode to watch, faithful viewers? Brian Altano is here to catch us up on everything next gen, and then Sony Computer Entertainment America President and CEO Jack Tretton. Yes, the guy from the E3 press conference who announced no DRM on PS4. He's here to bend my ear about PlayStation and give me his reaction to the competition's backtracking. But first, the news you care about. In a recent interview, Activision's head of publishing said that Microsoft had to, quote-unquote, prove that the Xbox One's premium pricing is worth it. And since Activision has spent years selling cheap plastic guitars, $11 Skylander action figures, and a $150 version of Call of Duty that comes with a cheap plastic remote control toy every year, you know Activision knows a thing or two about worth. Those aren't worth the money. You shouldn't... Okay. After nearly 17 years with the company, id Software president Todd Hollinshead is leaving the game studio. Now, he said he's moving on to pursue personal interests, but with a ponytail like that, I'd say he's leaving so he can go back to being a non-stop sex god to millions of ladies all over the world. One lady. We got her right here. Todd, ring us up. HBO is giving Game of Thrones fans a chance to vote on which cover they'd like to see for the release of the show's Season 3 box set. Now, I'm not sure which will win, but given the way the show's been heading recently, here's what the box art will look like in a few seasons. The horse is in mourning. It's not that. He's all alone. The Supreme Court has struck down a major part of the Defense of Marriage Act, granting rights like federal and Social Security benefits to legally married same-sex couples. Now, of course, congratulations. Congratulations, gay people around the world. But coming from somebody that got divorced, get ready for a world of hurt. State of Decay and Saints Row 4 have both been refused classification in Australia due to, quote, emphasis on self-medicating and interactive depictions of sexual violence. Okay, Australia. Can I take a minute to remind you of what's still allowed in your country? Yeah, you got a minute? Great. Floods, heat waves, flood waves, heat floods, giant deadly spiders, Tasmanian fires, Tasmanian devils, cyclones, giant deadly spider cyclones, poisonous snakes, poisonous millipedes, poisonous crocodiles, poisonous flood people, poisonous spider cyclones, and possibly the most dangerous group of creatures in the history of this great earth, the band AC/DC. So yeah, Saints Row, cartoon violence doesn't look so bad when you've unleashed highway to hell upon the world. Get the hell out of here, Australia. And finally, these pages are blank, since it feels like just a few weeks. It's been a long time since we've done a proper show. There's been a ton of huge next-gen console news, and we barely even touched on it. To catch us up on what we've missed, here is senior next-gen news analyst, Brian Altano. Brian!
Jesus. Holy shit, Greg. Have you been seeing all this? This next-gen stuff is crazy, man. I don't even know where to begin. I'm totally overwhelmed. We're like weeks behind all the news here.
I know, Brian. It has been insane, and now it's your job to fill us in on everything.
I'll do my best, Greg. So first off, Microsoft. They're like, we're evil, and we want your money, and we can't let your friends borrow your games unless you enter a blood pact with us for life. Yeah. And then a week later, they're like, just kidding, guys. We were just seeing if you would fall for that stuff. We would never do that. Come on, we're not crazy. Totally reminds me of when I dated a girl like that once. And 1 minute she was like, I want to marry you. And the next she's like, I'm going to kill you. And I was like, is this what love feels like?
That's not really what I was expecting, but I'll continue, I guess.
So then Sony said that they were going to start charging money to play PS4 games online. But they totally just slid it in there all secretly in the middle of telling us about a bunch of good things for the PS4. It's crazy. Which totally reminds me of when I dated a girl like that once. And she was like, look at these giant boobies, they're all yours. And I was like, yes, I love boobies. And she was like, I charge money for sex. And I was like, did your boobies just talk? That's crazy.
All right, I mean, Brian, no, breasts cannot speak, and it sounds like you visited a prostitute.
Oh yeah, so then Nintendo was like, everybody stop fighting. We put all of our favorite Mario characters in magical cat suits. And with our games, you can feel the whimsy of being a child forever. Woo. Yeah, one woo. Which reminds me of when I dated a girl that wore a cat suit, and she wanted to feel the whimsy of being a child forever, and she was like...
No. There's got to be a line even on the internet. We're not listening to that story. I don't know it. Right, you don't need E3. You need therapy, man.
Oh my God. You're right. Holy shit. Hey, you don't happen to have like a big name guest hanging around that can bail me out of this mess, do you?
Actually, lucky for you, I do. Brian Altano, everybody. Man, he was bursting at the seams to talk about the future of games. Speaking of the future of games, Greg Way. Whoa, I hit the teleprompter offline, but it came back. My next guest blew the doors off the next generation when he detailed the PlayStation 4. Please give it the hell up for President and CEO of Sony Computer Entertainment America, Jack Tretton. As I live and breathe, Jack Tretton, how are you?
Doing great, Greg.
I bet you're doing great.
Yeah.
So we're a few weeks removed from E3. At what point did you stop grinning? Like, you just were able to stop grinning?
The face does hurt a little bit.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, bet.
Gamers are the most passionate people in the world, and if you spend time with them, as I know you have, I mean, they fire me up, and
Yeah.
you know, it's painful when you make them unhappy, but it feels really good when you make them happy.
Yeah, that was the thing, right? This was, I mean, for years you've been building for this, right? Like PlayStation 2, such a huge success. PS3 had a rough start getting going, and you really had all the goodwill behind you. Talk to me a little bit about Monday. Monday of E3, it starts. There's a whole bunch of press conferences, including your competition. You guys are the finale. What's that day like for you?
It really goes back to 2008, where you know we're already post-launch PlayStation 3, and we realized some of the challenges that we had. And you say, okay, next generation. What do you want to do? And we did a great job designing platforms in the past, but I think we talked to the consumers and we talked to the development community after the fact. This time, day one, we went out to the development community. What do you guys need? What tools do you want? What gives you the power to make the ultimate game? And then listening to consumers day in and day out and saying, okay, this is what they want, this is what they don't want, and then delivering that to them and feeling like you've got the right concept, but then getting the reaction was just, 5 years worth of effort going, okay, we're on the right track, no question about that.
So, I mean, Monday morning, are you watching the Microsoft thing and you're just like, we got him?
We were doing rehearsals, and I was going through my stuff, and this round of applause went up. I'm like, that wasn't a point where I really thought it'd be an applause moment. I'm like, Microsoft probably just announced price. Yeah. And so I figured if there was applause and it was in our arena, then it was probably good news. So
that's an interesting point that a lot of people ask me after the fact. Like, do you think that PlayStation watched the Microsoft conference and then changed things around for theirs? And from what I heard, you guys have been with this plan for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded corporation, those decisions are made months and months and months in advance.
Hard to just throw the switch.
And we felt like we had a great value proposition for consumers that people would respond to, but you don't know how you're going to be positioned against your competition, and you can't spend a lot of time being an armchair quarterback. I mean, you got to execute that vision, and we felt good about it regardless where our competition came in. But I think, lower is better than higher. We learned that with PlayStation 3.
Right. Now, it's funny, you talk, multi-billion corporations, hard to make these changes on the fly. Your competition, a week later, JK, everybody. What was your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, like I said, we spent 5 years listening to the consumer day in and day out, so, better late than never. I guess they got the message.
So, what does it make you feel as far as moving forward in this console race? Like, is there a part of you that was like, damn it, Like now the playing field's a little bit more, not even, but in the way of like people can compare them a little more apples to apples.
I've spent so much time in this industry, and I think the industry does this, and to really survive in it, you have to stay fairly even-keeled. So I try to keep myself from getting too down, but also try to keep myself from getting too up. So I really had to allow myself to enjoy the moment for a couple of minutes after the press conference ended, and then you kind of have to shake it off and go, okay, day one of a 10-year battle, and we've got to win the consumer support one consumer at a time, one day at a time, so back into the trenches.
As a huge nerd and a fan of video games, you've been saying a lot of the right stuff lately. And you've been doing it in an awesome way, right? The whole is what happens at E3. While your press conference is going on, you release this awesome YouTube video of Shu and Adam there, how to share a game.
This is how you share your games on PS4. Thanks.
Yeah, you're allowed to clap for that. It really felt like February 20, the February event was what I had been saying for a while I thought you guys should do. Double down on games, make it about the gamers. You came out and you're like, first off, you're talking to developers, right? Like, this is what the system does, come make games for it. And then E3 is all about games on top of that and talking right to the gamers. How did this happen? How did you change your messaging in a way to make it where PlayStation, you guys are kind of embracing the fact that, hey, we are just like you, we want great games, this is who we are?
Well, I think, we realized we have to focus. Limited budgets, limited opportunity to reach everybody with a message. And first and foremost, we're about gaming. So let's focus on our heritage, focus what we're good at, and focus on what people want and ultimately why they buy the platform. So we were laser focused. I mean, there'll be all the entertainment features that the gamers want. We realize that's not the only thing that they do. But, we've had the good fortune of being relevant on a worldwide basis and reaching a very wide demographic, but you don't get all of them on day one. And I think you speak to the core, and then you kind of have a ripple effect out from there.
Now, you talk about your strengths in years past. Of course, I tweet who's going to be on the show, at GameOverGreggy. You tweet at me questions. I ask them here. This one comes from a little boy in Japan. His name's Shuhei Yoshida. He says, how does this year's E3 press conference compare to the past ones you've been a part of? How long have you been now with PlayStation?
Since March of '95, so
That's
every
a while.
E3 there's been. Yeah. And 27 years in the gaming industry. I had 5 years with Activision, and I started a games division for JVC back in '91. So really 27 years in the games industry and every E3. And it was so painful for those of us that were passionate about gaming to go to CES and be stuck out by the porn tent and really be the, you didn't feel the love with CES. So the first E3 was probably the most exciting one for me. Like, this is a show for our gamers, for our industry, and we were launching the first PlayStation, and it was so exciting and felt so good, and I'd really have to put this one on a par. I mean, I've loved them all. Some of them have been easier than others, but this one felt as good as any other one I've ever attended. I mean, I really felt like we had the right value proposition, the right platform at the right time. And the other thing I've really had to battle for the last several years is, does this mean, the demise of the consoles? And, I've been dealing with that for the 27 years I've been in the industry. The industry's been going away 1 year at a time. 27 years later, it's not going anywhere. And somebody asked me in the post-E3 press conference, what do you think about, and I thought those were at least going to die down. What do you think about the evolution of smartphones and tablets? I said, well, find one of the gamers that are here and ask them that question and then turn and run, because they're going to try to choke you out.
So I'm assuming I know the answer to this one. There was never a point in planning the PlayStation 4 that you guys were like, well, what if we just were software?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think if you go back to the introduction of the PlayStation, people said, I get Sony as a heritage in consumer electronics, and they could probably build a good machine, but really, do they understand software? And we had formidable competition in Sega and Nintendo at the time, but I think we've demonstrated our commitment to our worldwide studios. It's the biggest development house in the industry. We've got so many studios and so many employees dedicated to making great first-party games, and then we work real closely with the external publishing community to differentiate their games on our platform, and I think that investment that's now 15 years plus in the making is really paying off for us.
Now, you talked about value proposition. Just the other week, we talked about the fact that the $399 PlayStation 4 not coming with the new PlayStation Eye. Was that a tough decision to make for you guys?
Well, you know, I feel like we've got more experience in motion gaming than anybody because back to the original iToy on PlayStation 2, we brought a hands-free gaming experience in front of the camera. We found that you could do a lot of great things with it, but it didn't apply to everything. Right. So trying to do a one-size-fits-all was really difficult. So we really feel like for the development community and for the consumer, it should be a choice. If you're a developer who's excited about the camera and really think you can integrate that into making a great game, please do it. We'd love to have you on board. And if you're a consumer who's interested in buying the camera, we'd love to sell it to you for $60. But to force every consumer to have one on day one when some of them may be on a limited budget and don't necessarily have the interest in it, or to mandate that the development community has to support it, ends up coming up a little bit short in terms of things that people can get excited about.
Similar vein then, now you talk about, you know, the doom and gloom. Oh my gosh, the consoles are dying, it's going to be over for soon. A lot of doom and gloom every so often about the PlayStation Vita. To you, how does the PlayStation Vita stand? It wasn't talked a lot at E3 about what it's, you know, doing on its own, outside of course, interacting, disconnected screen kind of thing.
I think if you're really going to change the industry and you're going to do something that people remember you for, you got to take risks. So it seemed crazy in 1995 to go against Nintendo and Sega and come in with a new platform and try to be the third platform on the shelf. And I think we obviously had a lot of great success. And I think a lot of people would say, given smartphones and tablets, why would you want to have a dedicated handheld? But we always thought there was an opportunity, since not everybody can be home all the time, to try to give them a high-quality experience in a dedicated portable with dual analog sticks and a great screen and something that allowed them to connect to their console. And I still think there's an audience there for it. The thing that has me encouraged, though, is the people that have bought the Vita enjoy it. They're very happy with it. They go out and buy a lot of games. I think I said at E3, 10 games on average. So we've got a dedicated fan base. It's just not big enough right now. And I think the connection to PS4 and the ability to have, you know, to be able to play remotely on your Vita is something that will get a lot more people interested. But a lot of work to be done there. But we knew we were going into a real difficult market.
Now, you talk about, you know, adding value, rewarding the Uber user. Of course, up at noon audience here. Dedicated kids. You've drawn the biggest crowd. You beat David Hayter, and you are rewarding them. They all are walking away with 1 year of PlayStation Plus and a $10 voucher for the PlayStation Network. Now, since you were so nice, to reward you, I'm going to put you in a quick-fire hot suite questions.
All right.
See, a lot of people, again, tweet at Game Over Greg. I tell you who's on the show. We get it. Usually, you know, you bring on some voice actor, Troy Baker. You get 1 or 2 good questions. A lot of good questions for you on Twitter. Okay. So I just want to speed round through them. You ready?
Okay, I'll try.
Now clear your mind.
All right.
Blank slate. Are you ready?
Yeah.
It's blank.
Yeah.
What are you thinking of?
Nothing.
Will PS4 Vita streaming work at launch?
Will PS4 Vita streaming work at launch? Yeah, through remote play, absolutely.
How do you keep such a healthy glow?
Ethnicity. My skin changes color under a light bulb.
Oh. When's the PS4 come out?
Holiday. Before.
We tried to get him on it. I'm sorry. I thought that blank slate would get you. Why don't you have a Twitter account?
There's a lot of good fake ones out there. I think the problem is there's my opinion, there's a corporate opinion. It's tough.
But
to
you
separate
say that, and this is what I've been saying on Beyond for a while since all of this happened, right? Is that I felt like the E3 press conference when Shu came out and he showed our photo up on that Twitter. He did that, and then the video went up. It seemed like you guys were kind of embracing that person.
Oh, no question about it. But I think Shu can get away with that better than I can get away with that. You know.
All right, at USP, give him a follow. Blank.
Blank.
Will the PlayStation Plus subscription cost remain the same?
Yes, it will.
Final one. How tempted were you to drop the mic after the PS4 conference?
Well, the guys from Naughty Dog did that the year before, and I was thinking about trying to throw it off the rooftop with that, but I thought somebody could get hurt. So,
it's probably good thinking. This is why you're where you are, and I'm here. You make the responsible decisions. Jack, thank you so much for coming by.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Greg.
PlayStation 4 this holiday. That's our show, everybody. A huge thank you to Brian Altano, Keza McDonald, Jack Tretton, and my incredible audience. If you want to be in that audience, go.ign.com/up@noon for details. As always, Brian and I will be responding to the comments. The first hour of this video is live, so bring your awesome PlayStation 4 GIFs, GIFs, whatever you call them, and talk to us about Infamous. And while you're on IGN, head over over to our Saints Row 4 Twitter contest and enter to win a copy of Saints Row 4 and a chance to be in an IGN video. You could be the next Greg Miller. I'm so sorry. We'll be back next Monday with a special The Walking Dead Robert Kirkman interview. But until then, I'm going back to bed.